The 1985 film Weird Science, I thought this one was alright. Certainly not a classic from late director John Hughes, but it does have enough moments in it where at least it's a film you can watch and still have an enjoyable time with. So the story of this one is that two teen boys, they're nerds, they constantly get bullied. But when Gary gets an idea to create a virtual woman from watching 1931's Frankenstein, then he and Wyatt create a virtual woman on Wyatt's computer, but a power surge happens, creating Lisa, a beautiful and intelligent woman with unlimited magical powers. And from there, it's a film that I thought was okay. Now, I don't hate this movie, but it is certainly weird, pun intended, that John Hughes had directed a movie like this. In fact, he wrote the script in 2 days, which I thought was impressive. But considering he did 16 Candles in The Breakfast Club beforehand, and considering he had directed The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles beforehand, both which are teen coming-of-age drama movies, then I find it odd considering this is a sci-fi film and it just didn't connect with me as much as those other two movies did. And this movie promotes sexism and shallow materialistic values, basically saying you can only be popular if you have the fanciest cars and a whole lot of money. And those are bad values considering you don't need that stuff in order to get a whole lot of people to like you. Just be yourself. That's what this movie really should have been. The thing is that Gary and Wyatt don't learn anything, so everything they go through in this film amounts to nothing by the end of it. But at least this movie is fun. I did have an enjoyable time with it. It's just that there are some things within this film that hasn't aged particularly well, especially by today's standards. Now, there is no way this film would have been accepted today simply because how times have changed. An example of this is when Lisa kisses Wyatt. And the crazy thing is that Ian Mitchell Smith, he was 14 when he did that scene with Kelly LeBrock. But, it's not just that, it's how odd this movie is as a whole. Gary and Wyatt, I did like their friendship. It reminded me of how high school was during that time. Obviously, I wasn't in high school back in the 80s, but what I would say is that Anthony Michael Hall, he always been a fan favorite of the late director John Hughes. And I have to say, as a whole, this is the weaker film I've seen from that, director. I would put The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I would rate those films higher than I would this one. It's just seeing like them go to the party, and then, the bikers show up, which is interesting. One of them actually played one of the bad guys in Mad Max 2 Fury Road. I thought that was pretty cool. But generally, it's just not a whole lot of interesting things happen. There's no deep meanings like there is the John Hughes movies. Now, Lisa was an interesting character simply because she had gotten Wyatt and Gary out of their shell. First thing the three of them do when she's created is head to a bar. And I thought that was a funny scene itself, especially how Gary was talking in that scene. And the thing is that they never needed to create Lisa in the first place because they had confidence all along. They just needed someone to motivate them. Who would have thought it would have been a woman that was created by a computer? Bill Paxton did a good job playing one of the villains. He's just been bullying his brother. And interesting enough, this was his big starring role, as beforehand he only had small cameos. Ian and Max, not really a whole lot to their characters, they're just typical bullies. And it was interesting seeing a young Robbie Downey Jr. because I never checked out any of his older films from the 80s. But I would say that when it comes down to it, this is not a classic 80s film. It is still an interesting watch, and certainly if you're a fan of these movies, you can check this out. Just don't expect anything real special here. I'm giving this film a 6 out of 10. Not a bad movie in my opinion, but it does feel underwhelming at times compared to the other coming-of-age teen drama films out there. And that is my review of Weird Science. Alright, leave your comments down below in the section and let me know what you think about this movie. Okay, this is Slim Guy 172 saying peace out.
to be